I've always said that you are you, and you're never to be content with someone else's definition of who you are or what you should look like or how you should be. First of all, I consider myself extremely lucky to be a part of a fourth generation family, and for us to be female. I know a lot of persons, each time I share content about my grandma or my mom or my daughter, a lot of persons within my online community always say, what a blessing it is for NAIMA to know her grandma. I'm really blessed and privileged. Words that describe the women in my life. My mom is the Leo, and she is feisty and she's independent. And in fact, I grew up seeing her as the breadwinner. I grew up seeing her as the hustler, always trying to figure out how to support and how to provide. And I think that is the kind of attitude that I have developed because of having her as a model. And then, grandma, the matriarch, she is I call her the maestra, she's a Scorpio. She's very saucy. And for persons who see the little post that I make, you can see that she's very sharp. And what she did was she helped to mold this woman, who you see before you. She had me on the veranda, every single day, training me in a manner that would eventually make me the public speaker that I am. The personality that a lot of persons see, she really was instrumental in doing that. And when I see NAIMA, oh my goodness, I think of empathy, if there's one word. She understands not only her emotions, but she understands the people around her. And she has figured out what are appropriate responses in particular situations, which I think is something that some of us as adults haven't even figured out. So I would use empathy with NAIMA. The best advice, my grandmother said, education. She said, no matter how rough life gets, no matter how things may not work out according to plan, she said, get that education. And I think for her, it wasn't even a matter of just being book smart, but being knowledgeable, being wise, being well-read, being aware, because she said that is probably one of the greatest gifts you can have. People can take a lot of things from you, but they simply cannot take away the knowledge that you develop over a period of time. And that stuck. For my mother, it would definitely be financial freedom, but not just financial freedom. What my mother did a lot for me was that she supported me in all the things that I liked. So if it was art, she went and bought me an art kit. If it was dancing, she bought my leotards. If it was swimming, she bought me. So I think what she, let me remove financial freedom because that was really grandma's thing. I think what my mother taught me and showed me in terms of good advice was being supportive, being there for your child and trying to provide the avenues, the channels, and the resources for them to truly develop skills and interests and likes that they want. And I think that has kind of allowed me to try things, experiment, and support my daughter in the things that she likes. My mom definitely showed me that. And I know you asked for advice, but for me, I think action and behavior is so much more than words. And so it is really what they showed me that was my biggest advice, in other words. As a child, always asking questions, very inquisitive, very curious, adventurous, willing to try anything, jump off a tree, jump off a roof, climb a roof, jump on a bicycle without training wheels, that was who I was, very committed, very disciplined, and very self-motivated. And I think that's a culmination of course, grandma and mommy coming together. That would definitely describe me. I don't think I'm very far off as an adult, but definitely that was me as a child. As my online community grows and the demographic, the cross-section of persons within my demographic grows, what happens is that people join me at different phases of my life journey. So you have persons who've been following me since Miss Jamaica World Days. So they're like, yeah, duh. But for persons who've come in, see me as a TV host or see me as an event host or just kind of followed me organically, a lot of them don't know. It's not in my bio. It's not something that I regularly speak about, but it was probably one of the most definitive parts of my life. I think whenever people call me by name or they speak about me, they speak about this authenticity, this air of what you see is what you get. And I think in 2005, when I entered Miss Jamaica World, I entered with my hair being out and puffy. That's how I wore it as a university student in Cuba. And the fact that there were persons who, were under the impression that it would put me at a disadvantage, it really kind of jolted me, but it also fueled me to say, well, let me show you that you can be a beauty queen, you can be beautiful, and your hair can absolutely be natural and in a fro. And I'm happy that I stuck to my guns and I took it all the way to Miss World and was able to place. And so I use that because, as I say, you have to walk the talk. The do as I say, not as I do does not work. I think when you lead by example and when you reinforce by being the example, people take you seriously. And I've always said that you are you, and you're never to be content with someone else's definition of who you are or what you should look like or how you should be. So that was a definitive part of my life, for sure. After I successfully graduated in veterinary medicine, came back, the veterinary board I think they still do not recognize or accredit students who have pursued veterinary medicine in Cuba. And so for those of us who came back home, or for those of us who pursued veterinary medicine in Cuba, what we had were options. We could either continue our studies either at St. Augustine University of the West Indies in Trinidad, or we could probably go to Tuskegee University, which seems to have a very good relationship with Jamaica. But after having done, 6 years, I would have deferred 1 year because of Miss Jamaica World. To do that for 3 more years as a broke student, not being guaranteed a scholarship, it just seemed like too much. And it was heartbreaking because it was the only thing I wanted to do. It was the only career I wanted to pursue. It was the only thing I can say without uncertainty in my life that I wanted to see manifested. And to see that slip away, I don't think I can actually describe how it made me feel. But within myself, I just said to myself, this has got to be a part of God's master plan, right? He can't bring me this far to drop me like a bad habit. And even though it hurt, I just realized I had to pull up myself by the bootstraps and find other avenues and other areas and pull from areas that I probably didn't even know existed at the time, and use and hone skills that to me were foreign at the time. So I took that rejection, which I always say, and I took that rejection and I made it my redirection. And I don't think I'd be sitting down speaking to you even in this capacity had my trajectory gone the way I had wanted it to go. I think if anyone is listening or watching, or anyone who is thinking about building a brand, a personal brand, or just wanting to stand out in this world, which doesn't mean that you have to be the loudest or boldest, but standing in your own truth and your own uniqueness, it means that you have to control your narrative. You simply cannot accept definitions or the narrative that people put on you. And therefore, it is absolutely imperative that we design who we are. And when I say design, it's not to falsify who we are, but we are making a conscious, intentional effort to say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. If people come into contact with me and they have micro experiences with me and micro moments with me, how do I make them feel? How do they walk away? And so for me, coming on the tail of Miss Jamaica World and how I made people feel in terms of my authenticity, and this is how a Jamaican girl look and feel. The moniker Your Jamaican Girl was birthed, which I still use. And then people over the years have said, you've had this amazing ability, whether it's host, whether it's community builder, just speaking to your friends in your community, whether it's event host, you have this ability to connect people through story and connect dots and have everyone kind of think, in this one pattern. And I said, a human Ethernet, that's what the Ethernet does for our devices. It's this signal, this network that pulls everything together. And so that has been another moniker. And it's interesting to see that the narrative that I painted for myself, people have also claimed it, they've owned it, and they use these words to describe me as well, which means that I'm effectively communicating who I am, right? And how I want to be seen. I am still pinching myself, and it's surreal. I keep on saying that it's surreal, and I'll tell you why. Many of us are familiar with TED brand or the TEDx brand. I'm an avid watcher. The TED.com is a website more visited than Disneyland and Harvard. It is a place that is universally appealing to audiences from all over the world, regardless of race, religion, creed, ethnicity, background. Can you imagine that people from all over the world, no matter their age, look to this particular platform as a source of inspiration, education, challenge, and thought-provoking ideas, and to move from being an avid watcher and admirer of this TED and TEDx brand to now being invited as a participant, standing on that red carpet, that infamous, iconic red carpet, blew my mind. But I think what blew my mind even further was after hearing the theme is Untapped. I figured it was my story of which we just spoke about, of being, wanting to be a veterinarian, working towards that goal, getting that scholarship, graduating, coming home, excited to, eventually become one, and having that dream shut down, and then having to tap into these latent parts of me, these latent skills to become who I am today. For me, it was like, oh, that's got to be the topic. It just makes perfect sense.
Right.
And when we had our meeting, and they kind of said, actually, we've been following you, we've been watching you, and there is an aspect of your life that may not necessarily be the professional aspect, but it's the part that you do. And you do it in a way that challenges sometimes our own way of teaching, within our culture, within our society. Of how you teach your girl, and we think that's the topic. So I moved from surreal to, huh?
Yeah.
Really? Like parenting or imprinting on children of the present and the future? Never saw that coming. And now what I feel is absolute excitement and honor and privilege, understanding that it's the first time, outsiders are invited to this particular TEDx as well, which means that Jamaica is not really just about Terri-Karelle, but it's also the brand that is Jamaica that will be on display. And I think that is an indescribably honored position to be in. Uno pressuring me, that you guys are pressuring me. And what is interesting is that even the organizers of TEDx, as a part of their speaker reveal, they actually used the content of my revelation to NAIMA. And when you look at Instagram and you have these moments with children, you wait for that viral moment where she'd say, "Oh, congrats, mom, you're the greatest. Oh, I always believed in you." And she just kind of said, "So are you taking me?" And since then, everyone, including the TEDx committee, apparently is rooting for her. They said that her arguments were sound, that she is clearly shaping up to be a great debater of sorts. And so I haven't told her, but I'm actually considering it. I'm considering taking her, but don't tell anybody. Don't tell her. So even if we tell your readers, don't tell her. I'm gonna make her sweat it all the way down to the end. A good estimation of friendship, going back to that core, that authenticity, is simply having respect. I think if there's one word I would say, the one ingredient is respect. I think people are under the impression that the closer you get to someone or the more you know someone, it gives you the liberty to take advantage. It gives you the liberty to treat them as, you know, I can treat them however, because they'll understand, because they're closest to me. We have a habit of treating strangers better than people who we consider our friends because of the liberty that we take. And for me, I think the closer someone gets to you is the more respect you even have for them. It's the more you respect their boundaries. It's the more you don't take things for granted. And I think what has happened over the years is that no matter the good times, the bad times, no matter how much we are evolving as individuals, we are respectful of each other, and we marry that respect with support. And as a friend, that support does not mean yes to everything that your friend does. Being supportive also means sometimes pushing back and saying, I don't think that's the right decision. I don't think I'm with you on that. I can't stand with you on that particular one. So it is being respectful, acknowledging boundaries, and also supporting in a manner that you think will be the best support that this person needs at this particular point in time. And just also to mention, a lot of the time, or I grew up thinking that, you know, birds of a feather flock together, right? And you learn to socialize with people who are just like you and who think just like you. And it's almost encouraged as we grow that those are the types of persons that you should actually be familiar with and you should associate with. But I think age, you know, experience teaches wisdom. I think it's okay for you to associate and have friends with the same values and principles, but I actually look forward to having friends who think differently and who have different perspectives. And that requires a maturity on a completely different level, but I've been able to capture that and to have that with my closest friends over the years. It shocks people, for those who actually have heard this, but they don't believe it. But something that is very hard for people to believe and accept is that I am an introvert, because I'm this very bubbly and inviting and embracing person whose profession requires her to be in constant contact with people. And it almost sounds like the absolute opposite and contrast of who an introvert is. But that is actually me. Outside of everything that people see me doing, I am an extreme homebody. I prefer my own company. Sorry, Garfield, and everybody else. Sorry, NAIMA. I prefer my own company. I prefer me and my book. I will try to avoid small talk, which is why I skip out on cocktails. I usually arrive just in time. If I'm an attendee, I arrive just in time for the event to actually start. And, for persons who've taken the time to notice, as a host, I come in extremely early, and I usually pitch myself right beside the stage, and I keep myself company. It's very weird. I can't explain it. But for persons who know me well, that's who I am. If you ask me to do or present a speech to Obama and 4 million people around the world, I would not have a problem doing that. If you put me in a room with 10 people and say, go introduce yourself, I'm not doing it. I'd rather eat my hat. I'd rather eat okra raw than do that. And I think that's a huge part of my personality that persons just can't fathom at all. I wrote this recently, that sometimes the legacy we leave is not even something that we may be able to experience in our lifetime. Sometimes the legacy that we leave is experienced by generations to come, whether it's our family or people outside by extension. I think the legacy that I want to leave is just that when people think of me, it motivates and inspires them to take action, to bet on themselves, to know that it isn't just that they have the power within them, but that they are power. They are the definition of power. And that excellence is not something that people can give you, but excellence is something that you own and you claim for yourself. It is something that you do. And that excellence is unconditional. Whatever you decide to do for yourself and how you decide to be of use to other persons in service and how you add value to people's lives is when you stop looking at the output. It's when you stop thinking that if I do this, I will get that in return. But doing something from your heart and understanding that whether you get recognition, acknowledgement, accolades, or trophies, it will not matter. It will not dilute your excellence. And I want that to be my legacy. Even if you fail, you're not going to stay there. Even if there are challenges, you're not going to stay there, because you know that you have the capacity to be more and to do more on your terms. And that's the best terms you could ever find in this lifetime. I think if it's one thing I've learned from this entire process, you know, a lot of us are defined by what we study, our careers, our career path, what our parents wanted for us. You know, if you speak to a lot of us, we have those similar stories. And oftentimes we feel we have to be this one thing throughout life, you know, this one job, this one persona. And for me, we are multidimensional, and there's absolutely no reason, and there's no reason for guilt why we shouldn't explore all of these different facets and layers to us, and why we should not put it on display for the world to see. I think as long as they're within the same vein and they still cover the same values and principles, it's okay to share different parts of you, because you never know. You never know who you're impacting. You never know who is watching. You never know who is learning and assimilating and modeling their behavior from you. And you never know how a new opportunity can arise simply because you have shared a part of you from a very authentic place. And it's something that I would recommend to anyone. No, you're not one-dimensional. You are multidimensional, and there's no reason why you shouldn't explore all the opportunities and avenues that are out there for you. Scary sometimes, yes. Doable, absolutely. The reward, greater than the risk.